podcast.
Une minute chrono, The Off.
The Off.
Hello, thank you to be with us.
Great to be with you.
Yeah, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter and storyteller, William CRIGHTON from Australia, and over here for the Cognac Blues Passions Festival as part of a European and UK tour that I'm currently on.
Can you describe your music today? How is your music today?
Well, for me, I try and tell stories about the human experience within the country I'm from and the connection to the ground and the history and the present. And then I try and match those stories with a soundscape or a musical accompaniment that intensifies that message. So that's kind of, I try not to stick to one genre. I try and explore and experiment as much as I can. So from really folk music, using very simple chords, to more complex synthesizers and computer beats and things like that. So it's I just try and push my own boundaries all the time with everything that I
and
do.
to give your message,
Yeah.
your story, and
Yeah.
like Peter Gabriel.
Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, I guess like him. I mean, Midnight Oil and Peter Garrett are big influences on me, and were trailblazers in the sense that they gave license.
And you do all that by yourself? You're writing, you're composing, or you have some help?
The biggest help I get is from my wife, Julianne, and we write a lot of songs together, and she also sings.
And you play with her?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
She's not here today, but in Australia and when we do other bigger tours, she comes on the road with us. But yeah, she is the main collaborator, but I have many collaborators who, when I work with them, we exchange ideas. Midnight Oil is one.
And maybe people you meet?
Yeah,
So
always
that can
open.
inspire you some stories too, along your travels?
Yeah, absolutely. And the ground itself, I just wrote a song the other day called Goodbye Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And so it's like walking around here because, some of our ancestry is from here. You get a sense of the ground and it's a human story and we're a part of it. So I try and write as true as I can to that. So if I'm here, chances are there'll be a song that comes from being here.
You've been traveling a lot, you said. You've gone to the Silicon Valley, to China. So does all of these travels help you elaborate a new kind of music, your kind of music? Because you talked about your text, but your music too, does it influence?
Absolutely. Everywhere you go, it's like growing as a person. If you allow yourself to grow and be influenced by your surrounds, and then also admit when you can do something better, or admit when you've done something that's not so cool in the past, or continue to be committed to growth, then all of that comes in and influences the music. So from China to Silicon Valley and to the UK and Scotland and all through Europe, and it all definitely impacts me, but I don't know if anywhere has impacted me quite as much as coming over here and then returning to Australia for the first time and seeing your home country with the eyes after seeing another country. It kind of, at the same time you feel this great pride and belonging, you also feel like you're not the only one. Because when you grow up in a small thing, you think you're the only.
You're at home, but you are not the only one. Yeah,
totally.
Do you prefer playing alone, playing with your wife, playing with other musicians, jamming? What's the kind of music you like to practice?
I get bored easily, so variety is the spice of my life.
That's why you travel a lot, so.
Yeah, well, I try to travel a lot. It's getting harder and it's becoming more hypocritical to travel. That's why this tour, I've done most of it solo. So we did Glastonbury solo, we did the UK headline show and Germany headline show solo. And I travel with everything I have that I can carry. It's very hard, but all public transport for this tour. The last tour we did here in Europe, we had 2 crew, a big van, 3 people in the band, and a merch person, and it was like, everyone doing the thing. But this time, a lot more work for me. But I can't sing about helping the environment and being one with the land. If I'm trying to decrease the hypocrisy within my own life.
Yeah. So, okay, you like things moving.
Like things moving, but I also
you
like
are
to be aware.
traveling, like you are playing with by yourself, with others,
Yes.
jamming, and so. Yeah.
But band is becoming more possible in Australia. But
Yeah.
because I sing about, I sing about how a lot of things, but a lot about how we have to look after the place that we grow up on. I can't be singing about that and then flying 6 people around with me and
Yeah.
taking a big van, and that's a hypocrite. So we have to try and sing about the things we can and try and limit the amount of impact. Tread lightly.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your album, Water and Dust? You want to present it?
Yeah, okay. The latest album is Water and Dust, and I tried to create a soundscape of Australia. So we had a wonderful dear friend of mine, William Barton, who's a didgeridoo player, and also my wife and Jeff Lang and a bunch of Rob Hurst and Jim Magini and a bunch of people on this album, and it really, I think, created the personal nature but also the vastness of Australia to my eye, and so it's the biggest record I've done with the most amount of people, but I had the clearest vision for this album that I've had so far. So
A song like Your Country could be played by Neil Young, I heard Neil Young when I heard you.
that's a massive compliment. Midnight Oil and Neil Young are pretty much my favourite people.
And in this song we can hear didgeridoo,
Yeah.
typical Australian music.
Yes, yeah. Well, the didgeridoo is a very old instrument, and it's there's only a few Aborigine nations that had the didgeridoo up north in Yolngu, and then down south in Wiradjuri. There were 2, and only a couple of others. So a lot of people think that the didgeridoo, every Aborigine nation had it, but only a couple had it. But it's probably one of the oldest instruments in the world.
So tell me about Midnight Oil. We can't speak with you without a word about the drummers of Midnight Oil and the other members. Fantastic.
Limit it to 2 minutes. 2 hours,
Quickly,
maybe.
please.
Well, growing up in Australia, Midnight Oil are like the godfathers to me of rock. And they also gave us license to sing about country as white people. And they gave us license to investigate the Aborigine story and become, feel like we're a part of the nation we grew up in. And they've opened a lot of doors. And to them, as personal people, they're the most humble, loving, creative group of musicians I've ever met. And they inspire me on a daily basis. And, especially, Rob Hurst and Jim Magini, I think, are just incredible people and musicians and writers. Peter Garrett probably should have been Prime Minister. It would have been wonderful if he was. He got really chewed up and spat out because he tried to speak the truth and do the right thing in Australian politics, and that's almost impossible to do when you're in that system and that machine. So, but he is still a voice that we listen to, and I think Midnight Oil will be that in Australia forever. There's only one of them.
Do you have any ritual before getting on stage?
When I have time, I like to take a quiet moment.
Yeah.
And by myself, and just think about the ground where I'm standing, think about the history of it as much as I can, try and feel what's around, and just be present and make sure that I'm present and going to be with the people when I walk out on stage.
Yeah.
There is a temptation always to get consumed in the travel arrangements, or this or that, or the hype of it, or is this there, or is that going to work? But just connecting to the ground and
so you're
being
going.
here.
You're saying you're trying to get a connection, and this help you to be better on stage and to be here with everyone.
To be grounded.
To be grounded. Yeah, that's good. Great. Do you remember your first time on stage? When it was? Where?
Yeah, I remember my first time on stage. I was about 14, and it was in a bowling club. I used to just, as part of a little open mic night in a little, very small town. But how I started singing was in church, and when I started singing is in church.
Oh, okay. Gospel or
gospel?
Gospel.
And
that's good. For the voice, it's a great school.
Yeah, for the voice and for the feeling of togetherness.
Yeah, I think this is your kind of spirit. Yeah.
As you get older, you realize that the control mechanisms of the church are there to placate the human question, but at the same time, it can be a wonderful source of love and togetherness and community. But it can also be a great source of
peaceful,
control.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yep.
What's your coolest or baddest memory on tour or festival?
So many. There's too many, really. Like
maybe a short story that marked your mind.
Well, for me, music started out as a family. My brother playing bass, my wife playing, and I, and that's it. And so it's always a family experience. So whoever's in the band always feels like family, whether it's family by blood or not. And I try and keep that. Going. There's too many stories to get into that I can't remember.
Okay.
I'll tell you one stupid story. And a very recent. When I was on the way here, I was because we had to cancel this last year. So this year, I really, we wanted to make it happen, and so I was in the Netherlands, and it was all massive storm. But I managed to get on the plane. We get to Bordeaux. I'm on the way. I missed my train to that place that starts with an A, Amagule, I don't know. You have to go there before you come. Angoulême. I missed my train to there, so I book another one. I get on the wrong train.
I'll go.
And then I say to the guy, when does this stop at Angoulême? And he says, no.
You're going the wrong way, man.
No, he says, this is non-stop to Paris. So I was on the train to Paris. I got to Paris too late to get the train back. So I got the train back at 5:50 a.m. yesterday to make the show yesterday. So that's one of the road stories from just this tour. That was yesterday.
Oh, yeah. And so, how would it be to be on Cognac Blues Patience for a man like you that traveled all around the world?
It's cool, and it feels like the power of music is encouraged and respected here, and it feels like there's a lot of pride in the ground from the people also who make the alcohol, where everything comes from here, but also the music has that sense too, and I like how it's called Blues Passions rather than Blues Music Festival.
With an S, Patience.
It's cool. It's like, because that's what blues music is. It's a passion. It's hard to really put it into a box. Is it that fusion of African and Irish music that stemmed out of Southern America? But it's a feeling more than anything, I think.
Yeah. It's a feeling. It's human story.
Yeah, because to say that those convicts who stepped off the boat in Australia didn't have the blues, you'd be wrong, yet they'd never heard of blues music. So it's, the blues to me is a spirit that goes through all humans, and it's likened with suffering and hope, and the strength that comes out of suffering.
Yeah. Okay, one last question. Maybe a stupid question.
I love them.
Yeah. Usually, journalists are asking the question you are tired to answer to every time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to know the question that nobody asked you and you would like to answer to.
Oh.
The thing you would like to talk about.
Okay, well, I guess the thing that I would like to talk about is the quest for connection, and that's what I sort of like to talk about and think, whether it's with my kids or my wife or you, we're finding common ground to connect, and the more that we can find common ground to connect in a world that is promoting divisive behaviour and not being connected, like at the same time we are all connected on our phones, we are so disconnected with each other.
Yeah, with life and with others.
Absolutely. Yeah. So finding that connection is the quest that I'm on, and what I like to talk about and think about, and is finding that common ground. I remember sitting around the fire with an Aborigine elder in Australia one time when I was first learning about the Aborigine culture, and I said to him, I'm a white person, my ancestors are from Scotland.
Yeah.
But I'm here, I feel belonging to here, but I also feel conflicted because my ancestors have caused you so much pain. He said, listen, you're here, I'm here. cut me, cut you, we both bleed red. That's very powerful. And so that's how I live my life, think in those ways now.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Le podcast.
1 minute chrono, The Off.